Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk. Oh my god, he had Jack Posobiec on, the neo-Nazi? That was just yesterday, holy shit. Nobody in my community gives a fuck. We're gonna watch every second of it. That'd be good, don't you think? Get ready, people. This is a level of intellectual surpassing. You are simply not ready. This is like the level of, well poisoning that I would engage in while constructing a title right here. Deranged, lunatic, pro-baby murder activist, epically, yeah, exactly. It's like Ben Shapiro tier. Buckle up, Buttercup, because this one's gonna chafe your nuts.
We're gonna be talking about abortion. The way it will work is very structured, and then we will enter into the laissez-faire, unregulated portion of the conversation.
Guys, I think we're in trouble. And the trouble is that I actually find abortion debates aggressively uninteresting.
So, this is obviously a pretty contentious issue. One that affects women around...
Play Diablo while watching? You guys are so fucking smart. How are you guys so smart? Play Diablo while watching? Oh, God. Oh, my God. I wish I was as smart as you guys. Thankfully, the wisdom of the crowds means that I can adopt your intelligence simply by doing the things that you suggest. Very smart. Hold on. There we go. Bing, ban, boom. Perfect.
By quoting a woman who wrote a very interesting article in the Washington Post. Very funny article, too. She said about some of the hypocrisies of this position being anti-choice. We believe in freedom. Your fist must stop where my nose starts. Except this one minor thing is obviously not a big deal, where you have to use your body to build another body from whole cloth, give it eyeballs and a circulatory system, undergo months and months of creeping bodily horror as your torso becomes unrecognizable to you. Familiar smells become off-putting, and then at the end of this process, you have a human being for whom you have to arrange a life. Compare that minor, barely palpable discomfort with the shocking, invasive horror of placing a strip of fabric across your nose when entering a business for 3 to 5 minutes. I shudder just imagining it. You can cough and breathe on whoever you like. It's a God-given right. Nothing worse as a human than to have to conceal your exquisite nose. We don't believe in restricting anyone from living as he chooses unless, of course, it's tangible minor things like who wants to vote or get abortions, or both of which are going to disproportionately, of course, impact people of color. But does that matter? I guess not. After all, it's your body, and of course, we view your autonomy as sacred and worthy of protection. It's just that if your body contains a uterus, it does not technically belong to you. It's more of a vacant lot for us to regulate as we see fit, and your neighbors to be encouraged to sue about. So, no matter our race, our gender, or our zip code, that's the end of the quote, this is me now, I believe we all should be able to come to a consensus that we can decide for ourselves whether and when to have children. But a handful of politicians today are trying to pass laws that destroy our freedoms, undermine our rights, and endanger our futures. They make decisions that force people to struggle, to simply make ends meet or care for their families, and then shame and blame those that they force that into. And while they're busy fighting for our most basic rights, they hand the money that they take from our health care and our schools to our kids' futures and their corporate donors. We are in a democracy, not a theocracy, and it's nuts to allow government to think they can have a say in the choices a woman makes for her own body. And the last most important point is that by doing this, women will die. Young girls will die. Without safe places to go for abortions, they will still find a way to get. Our daughters, friends, nieces, teachers, mothers will die. Would you rather your daughter die, if you have a daughter one day, or make a safe choice for her own life, or decide to start a family for her own life? And if you choose die, how is that pro-life?
Thank you. Okay, so I think the entire kind of framing of this debate first...
There are a few things I don't like about this. Guys, I'm super black-pilled on the abortion shit, dude. The arguments about it are so fucking dumb. It feels like... So the arguments are about personhood and about bodily autonomy, right? But if you really wanted to, you could make, like, strong arguments that even if you generally believe bodily autonomy should be respected, you could make exceptions for something like abortion, because if you did think those were people, you'd be killing, like, millions of them. So, like, making exceptions for cases like that seems like the sort of thing that you could justify, or justify in utilitarian sense. It seems like the only real debate is on personhood, and it's totally fucking arbitrary. I don't know. I'm just so bored by this shit. I feel like this might be one of those conversations where irrationalism might end up being the best approach, where the best thing that you can do is just go like, yeah, well, I don't think that they're people. Fuck you. I'll fight you. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like that might be the only, like, reasonable position that a person can really adopt over the long term. Yeah, the Chad position. Also known as the Chad position. Very true. Isn't the fact that the arbitrary proof should be the person's choice? I mean, not really, because I don't believe in objective morality, so if I believed that, then I would have to think that everything morally relevant should be the person's choice, which wouldn't be good, you know?
First thing to start with the type of privilege that we have. Both you and I have age privilege and size privilege.
Yeah.
To say that we believe that certain life should not exist. There's been 62 million abortions in America since the ruling of Roe versus Wade. So if you go to just a 7th grade textbook of what is a living being, or what is a being that has some sort of life, it will say that it's distinct and that it is whole. What makes a human life so incredibly unique and so magical is you do not need to encourage or tell that life to grow. It's not like a Corvette on an assembly line. Is that human life will develop naturally. This really kind of goes down to the question of when does human life begin? When does personhood begin? And the science of embryology says very clearly that life, human life, begins at conception. Now, speaking non-scientifically as a moral argument, we have overseen the slaughter of our fellow citizens over the last couple decades. This is a genocide, dare I say a holocaust of our citizens that has occurred since Roe versus Wade.
What the
fuck? You talk about women. Well, just statistically, half of the 62 million abortions since Roe versus Wade are 31 million women that never had the chance to live. We have a luxury and a privilege that we are able to say we are old enough and developed enough. We're larger and we're older to say to another life right now that's in the womb that you have no right to exist. You talked briefly about the racial part of it. 900 black babies a day are aborted every single day in this country. We need to have a moral question here of when does life begin? What is a human being? If it is not your DNA, it is not your choice. And we, as a society of human beings, the least we can do is ask ourselves the question, are those people, are those persons in the womb worthy of protection? I would contend absolutely. It is the most important moral question I think we as Americans and we in a free society can debate and discuss, that all life is worthy of protection.
Loves it. So lots of problems with what you said. Let me start picking them apart. First, as a Jewish person, I take large offense to comparing a life that never got to exist to a Holocaust which killed my family who did get to exist and were snuffed out. To say those are even comparable is deeply offensive, but let's put that aside for a second. You said that the definition by your own words and by the science of embryology is that life is distinct. But an embryo is not distinct of the mother.
Why would he say that to a Jew? You know? Like, I don't think you should say it at all. I'm just saying that in terms of whatever optics fucking layup you're setting up for your opponent, I feel like having a Jewish opponent pretty much makes the worst group. Did he know? I mean, you could, like, Google the guy you're going to debate, right? I don't know. What the... Okay, yeah.
Mother whom it is literally attached to and dependent on it for all nutrients and all survival. If it can survive in this world, if it can take a breath and go on to live, that is a distinct being, and you've got a great argument there. But without that, you simply do not. And you also contradicted yourself when you said that it is life, and then a minute later you said, never got the chance to live.
Ooh.
A life had a chance to live if it's a life, right? So, in fact, it did not have a chance to live because it's not a life yet until it is born. Booyah, baby.
Okay, so you understand how dumb that argument is?
I don't understand.
That's
I don't know.
It
seems okay.
I killed you right now.
What
I'm saying is that the baby was alive and it got murdered in the womb, therefore it never had a chance to live past the point of it being alive. What I meant is that it never had a chance to live to a 5-year-old birthday, or a 15-year-old birthday, or a 30-year-old birthday. Again, using age and size privilege that you have and I have, you say, you know what, we should be able to quash and quelch the 62 million human beings that never had a chance to live outside of the womb. Here's the basic syllogism that I bring as a pro-life advocate. It is always wrong to intentionally kill a human life. Abortion is intentionally killing a human life, therefore abortion is morally wrong. And so you're going to be making an argument about choice.
What is a human life? Are human skin cells human lives? They are undeniably, genetically, factually human, aren't they? And they are alive by any existing biological definition.
But some choices are wrong. For example, it's wrong to kill human beings. So you're going to have to make an argument to the audience why either A, this is not a human life, or B, why the mother has the right to murder her own child.
Sure. I'm going to choose the former of those options. Why I do not believe it is a life.
Okay.
And it's easy to make that point.
Well, wait.
But
it is
let
a
me
life.
First
it
say
is
this.
alive.
You are saying that it is a life that got snuffed out. And I don't mean to pull my age privilege on you, but I'm a little older than you. How old are you, Charlie?
27.
27. How come you didn't say 28?
Because I'll be 28 in 2 weeks.
But if life begins at conception, you're 10 months older than that, and you actually are 28. Why don't you say 28?
Because that's the way we categorize birthdays.
That's the way you celebrate your life. That's the way we acknowledge life. That's the way the birthday begins when you are born.
So I'll let you
if
finish.
life begins
I
at
think that's
conception,
dumb. This
if
is
life
pretty
begins at
dumb.
conception, you would count your life from the
It's
moment that egg was
birthday,
fertilized.
not
when
life
you were the size of a
beginning
poppy
day.
seed,
It's
not even
pretty
a poppy
dumb.
seed, but after a couple days of poppy seed size life that you're celebrating that great birthday. But you don't, because you don't actually believe that it is a human life. You do believe if you believe the science, it's quite obvious that it is the germ of a life, it's the beginning of a life, it's the beginning of a gestation of a life. If you're building a cake, baking a cake, you take the ingredients. When that cake is done, you got a cake. No one is saying it's a cake when it's ingredients that will become, after baking, a cake.
Who
and if
is
you throw
this
that
guy?
cake away because it doesn't come
This
out
comedian?
properly into ever being a cake, you don't say, man, you just threw away a perfectly good cake. No, you say, that cake never became a cake.
He's a comedian?
So
Yeah, okay.
I'm just
well,
curious, and we'll just kind of go into the... are you okay
I like
going back
eating
and
some
forth?
cake, guy.
Are you
Please,
okay
sure,
going back and forth?
sure.
So when does human life begin?
I think the human
It's
life
about
begins at birth.
personhood, not
Yes.
life.
So it's okay to terminate a child right up to 9 months. Full development, full birth, full breath, feeling, all
Full
of it.
breath.
No, I don't personally believe that, no.
So when is a human life worthy of constitutional and legal protection?
I believe that a human life becomes one that we should do our damnedest to protect when it is viable outside of the womb. That's my belief.
So it's, what do you mean viable? Like
when it can
able to-
survive without the mother being connected and feeding all
that's
nutrients
3
to
or
it.
4 years old. If you can hunt and gather on yourself, a 2-year-old is totally
We're in
dependent
for a
on the
rough
mother.
grind today,
Should we be able
folks.
to
I
kill
can feel it.
2-year-olds?
You should have seen me as a 2-year-old. I was very crafty.
So how about 18 months?
Listen, some kids can survive on their own.
So your moral
Absolutely.
position is to be able to
What?
kill 6-month-olds because they have to breastfeed for their mother.
No. I'm simply saying when something is attached and dependent on the nutrients of life
Like
and
a
dependent
6-month-old.
on the ability. No, a 6-month-old.
A 6-month-old's gonna go hunt and gather and grow their own crops. And
Nobody could probably crawl around and find some crumbs on the ground.
What the
live
fuck
in a
is going
society that
on?
has-
degree of dependency of crumbs created by somebody else. You understand?
Everything's dependency.
your-
Hunting and gathering is dependent on there being animals
A
around.
15-year-old or a 20-year-old has the reason, the capacity, and the maturity to be able to not be dependent on other human being.
I don't know if you've seen many 15-year-olds.
So your moral position is that if you are dependent on another, you should be able to be terminated.
No.
Okay, so what is your moral position? Like, when does human life begin? That should be protected by the law.
I think human life should
Are we
be
doing
protected
leftist
by
audio
the
again?
law when it is
Why?
born. Because that is the only marker we all agree on. You
But
yourself
why
have
when
said,
it's born?
well, I'll tell you why. Because you yourself have said that, and it was a really well-made point that you made, and I'll quote you back to you. You said, we have a universal standard for when death is, but we do not have a universal standard for when life begins, and we should. And then you go on to say, I believe life begins at
I
conception.
do, yes.
But you then put your own personal belief at the end of that great quote. We do currently have a universal standard that we all agree when life begins at least, and that's from birth. Some believe it begins earlier, but not all.
I'm assuming they're pulling audio from a different thing, like the lapel mic broke or something like that. I have no idea why the fuck it's so... How does this happen twice in a row? This happened at Tucker Carlson's show. Holy shit. Anyway, those arguments were stupid as fuck. Guys, I think the I think the viability argument is kind of dumb. I really think the personhood argument has to be the thing, you know? That consciousness is an emergent property. That consciousness is an emergent property, and there's no way of knowing when it actually arrives, but you do a guesstimate, you know? You just do a guesstimate and you stick to that, and that's basically all you can do. I really think that's all you can do. If the audio ends up being this bad for the remainder of the video, then yeah, we're not going to watch it, okay?
If
you want the universal,
if your argument is to change how we do birthdays, I'm totally on board for that.
Fair enough.
So I'm actually 28 years old.
Thank you. If you want someone changes Wikipedia. If you want the universal standard you so seek, the universal standard we currently have is from birth. So my very important point to you here is, if you want to work harder to get that universal standard to change and to convince the populace to get on board with redefining that, do so with argument, do so with fair, good faith argument to get the population on board and change the position of the country. Great, I'm all for you trying to do that. But until you do, the universal standard of when life begins is when somebody is born.
This is a stupid argument.
Life doesn't exist without being alive in life, in the world. Life is life.
Okay, they got new microphones. I'm so distracted by how stupid this debate is that I'm not even trying to avoid dying in these fucking runs. Holy shit.
So
life begins when life begins. That's the current definition of it, and its definition of
life
words.
begins when life begins.
Is when deoxyribonucleic acid is formed. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
That's the science of embryology, not of lifeology. That's when an embryo begins.
You just made up a word called lifeology.
And you made up a science of embryology as though that
I
defines
did not
birth.
make a science of embryology. It is a well-studied
but you're jumping and leaping that is what life is.
So wait, do you think when DNA is formed, it's okay?
I respect that, though. He's like, yeah, you made up embryology. You made that up.
It is whole. The science of embryology says it starts at conception.
Well, that's a great, that's the science.
62 million human beings that were never able to live outside of the womb.
And you're a genocidal murderer every time you masturbate, Charlie.
Sure.
Why?
Because there is DNA in sperm,
no, but
and every head of sperm has DNA,
first of all,
and it is a distinct thing that's swimming around.
It never formed,
and there's
never
millions
fertilized
of
with
them,
an egg.
Hundreds of millions.
Wait, who cares?
Fertilized with an egg.
In a tissue and
who cares?
flushing down the toilet. Why?
It never fertilized with an egg. So let me ask you a question.
Why is that your line?
Yeah.
If you're because that's what I said. When a unique DNA is formed,
why?
That's what the science of embryology says.
And the science of science.
No, this is it. This is unanswerable. The science of embryology does not say that personhood is defined by the formation of unique DNA. Different cells within your own body have unique DNA. Like, that's just not how that works, okay? Nobody says unique DNA is what determines a life. That's not, embryology doesn't have answers to that, okay?
Science also says...
The science of science?
The science of science also says...
You understand how dumb you sound, right?
The science of spermology also says...
Spermology.
...that sperm is alive. Do you deny sperm is alive?
Do I deny that sperm is alive? That is my own sperm, and your fixation with sperm is like creepy and kind of weird. Honestly,
not answering. He's not answering.
Is creepy and kind of weird.
No,
so
actually,
I'm just trying to even it out.
My moral position to protect the unborn is one that I wish you had.
I wish you had that same dedication to protect the born children in this world.
I do. So let me ask you a question.
You don't. You're against
I do. Now let's
funding
move on.
turns.
The child's eyes and eyelids, nose and mouth and tongue have formed. Terminate it. That's okay? Child's eyelids, nose, mouth, and tongue. Terminate?
Well, they're not real human ones. They're developing ones.
Got it. So electrical brain activity can be detected at 6 or 7 weeks and by the end of the 8th week. Terminate?
And?
Not a human.
Isn't there electrical brain activity in, like... Well, I was going to say jellyfish, but I don't think jellyfish actually have brains. I mean, you can find it literally fucking anywhere. Anywhere, anytime. Like, we're talking about personhood, not how developed the life is, okay? These conversations are always so dumb because it's like the anti-abortion activists like, at exactly 3 days and 17 minutes, this is what the finger looks like. And they show like a lump or something. And it's like, would you kill that finger? Like, I don't fucking care. None of this means anything. Fuck you. I don't care. Unique DNA and the formation of body parts and like brain activity are not things that objectively determine like individual personhood. Those are just not standards that exist. You aren't going to find those. Does Charlie kill bugs or does he scoop them up with a cup and let them go outside? This is important. We both know the answer to that one, Shu. Okay? Jesus.
It's not a human.
Got it. Okay. By 10 weeks after conception,
it's also, by the way,
the child can make bodily movements.
It's half a centimeter big at this point
right.
and 0.25 of an ounce.
I'm taller than you, so I should be able to terminate you?
No, because we're talking about scale. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4", much taller than you.
6'4".
See, he is 6'4".
So your moral argument is taller people should be able to terminate smaller people. Got it.
Never said that.
That is true, by the way.
Therefore you could terminate.
No, you're
as early as
things
12
that
weeks,
life. I'm listing
and
things that don't.
certainly by 20 weeks, an unborn child can feel pain. Is it okay to terminate a child that can feel pain?
Pain, that is a disputed scientific fact because pain without the ability to understand any sort of context is not pain as humans know it. They register what is happening, but it is not pain as though, oh man, this hurts.
Yeah, wait, so the pain that he's talking about is like the pain that plants feel, right? It's like plants feel pain, but then what you mean is that being damaged sends electrical signals to the body, right? We don't know if there's a conscious experience. We just know there's an electrical reaction to bodily damage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the same thing.
So if something can't register the pain, it's okay to torture something?
Correct,
Well,
if it can't register the pain.
So if someone is on a ventilator, if someone is in comatose and you torture them, that's morally acceptable?
Cannot.
That's not. Dude, this is too much. I can't. I'm not gonna be able to deal with this, man. Oh God, it's too much.
Register the pain, then it's not registering the pain.
Let me ask you a question. Are you okay with abortions for people that found out they are pregnant with Down syndrome children?
Sure.
I wouldn't do it.
Are you okay with? Is it
yeah,
morally okay
if you
for a
think
society to
abortion's
embrace?
okay for other groups, then
I haven't thought about that.
wait, what?
I
You
think
would
a lot of people with Down syndrome.
wait? Is he like, I'm a pro-choice activist unless your kid has Down syndrome? In which case, sorry, you have that. That is an interesting position.
Syndrome live beautiful lives.
So are they worthy of protection?
That's not a fair thing to ask.
Why?
Because I'm saying that fetuses with Down syndrome or fetuses without Down syndrome are not children. So you're going to a specific within the whole. But I'm arguing that all of it is not a human life yet. So you're going specific.
So let me ask you a
within it.
question. What species is it on the animal kingdom? If it's not a human life, what kind of life is it?
It's not a life yet.
What
you just said
species
it
is
was
a
a human
human
life.
skin
Well, I did not say it was
cell?
a human life.
So it's not alive?
It is not.
So something with eyelids,
not alive.
nose, mouth, and a
Ooh.
heartbeat is not alive?
So
What is
a-
it? Is it dead?
So a sperm with DNA and a head that can swim and find an egg is not alive. Is it dead?
Well, it's not been fertilized with an egg with a
Why
unique
it's human.
fertilizing- It
It's
is
human
Because according
sperm.
to science of embryology, that sperm, when it is firm with an egg, creates a new being of deoxyribonucleic acid that is formed, that is magical, unique, and distinct only to that moment, therefore worthy of conception, and
Who asked?
begins the
Askers?
process of the development of a full human being,
Askers?
where the sperm, independent of that, does not have that. Again, your fixation with sperm, kind of weird.
My sperm is magical and unique and worthy of whatever the conception you said
So true,
too.
King.
I got good sperm, and that's just a public service announcement for people
true.
that want to know that. You can't say my obsession with the first building block of life is weird, but your obsession with 6 hours later or 3 days later
but-
when it hits
but-
an egg is not weird.
But you admit there's something magical that happens once that sperm and egg meet, that a human
What?
life begins, that process begins, that a new DNA is formed.
Look. Okay, sure. But wouldn't you agree that like magic is real and it happens at this point that what? What the fuck?
Where two beings become one. Don't you admit that?
I think it's as magical as the incredible thing that we are given sex drives that compel us to ejaculate and that compel women to drop an egg to have the potential to receive
Poop
life.
an
That
egg.
is as equally magical. But you don't contend those are lives. You don't think someone having a period
Let
is
me
murder.
ask you a question.
And you don't think sperm ejaculation is murder.
So since you're so bizarrely fascinated with sperm,
You're bizarrely fascinated with women's bodies.
I feel like this is some kind of reflexive homophobia from Charlie Kirk, because I feel like you're literally talking about when a life forms. Of course sperm is going to come up as a concept, but Charlie's like 7 times now he's been like, if you like cum so much, then why don't you marry it? It's like, all right, okay. I mean, it feels a little relevant in my opinion, but all right.
And regulating them even though you're not a woman.
I am very fascinated in saving babies' lives, and I will not stop
They're not
advocating
babies.
for that. So let me ask you a question. Since you're fixated on sperm, a sperm, absent meeting an egg, does what?
It dies.
Once a sperm meets an egg, uninterrupted from abortion interference, does what?
Oftentimes it will fertilize it, obviously not always.
And live.
No,
And what does a fetus do absent the womb? It dies. That argument supports our thing. You're saying that that like the continued development, because like it's if things are allowed to happen, but like only because of the contribution of the womb. Like it doesn't work that way. I think the comedian's mostly trolling, not gonna lie. Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
begin
and grow
and continue. I even
and
begin.
nourish
Continue the building
and
blocks
develop
of no. It continues
and live a full life.
Not true.
So your argument of your kind of creepy fixation with sperm, which
fuck?
is that the sperm, absent the fertilization of the egg,
You want to keep saying
does
creepy
not
fixation on
continue
sperm
to
so
grow,
your followers can
but
message
once
that to
the
me.
sperm
You have a creepy fixation
meets
with controlling
eggs,
women's bodies. So
it
stop that
turns
phrase if you
into
want me to
a
listen to
human
you.
life
Stop that phrase.
and grows
If I'm making a
and
well,
develops.
stop. If I'm making
You're
a
the one
Charlie,
that wants to interfere and
Charlie,
destroy
I'm not
a
hearing
baby
this point because if you're
to be
gonna
able
make,
to grow.
If you want to make a scientific argument,
I need to put my
then
armor
don't
back on.
make a stupid point over and over again about part of that scientific argument.
I'm just clarifying the lack of wisdom in your argument.
Lack of
where
wisdom
you say
how?
sperm independent of meeting an egg does what?
It dies if it doesn't.
So
meet
once
an
the
egg.
sperm meets the egg, uninterfered by an abortionist, it does what?
It dies. And an
No,
egg,
it lives. A sperm meeting an
Oh, a
egg,
sperm meeting an egg, right?
uninterfered.
That's not really true. The sperm dies, some new life is created, or some new independent biological thing exists, or something. The sperm doesn't continue to live.
Interfered with an abortionist that does what?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
But when it does develop, it
Eventually becomes a life.
you.
When it's born.
Or me.
When it's born.
Or our fellow human beings.
And when it doesn't, when it leads to a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy, it doesn't lead to those things. And then abortions can, or not even abortions, D&C procedures can help clear that out so the woman can go on to have a family in the future. Let me ask you a question. You're so against abortion and protecting lives,
Well, I'm very pro-baby.
but you are okay with abortion if it saves a woman's life. Why?
So actually, I will clarify that. That's so exceedingly rare. And in fact,
Great.
being a
over
pussy.
1,000 OBGYNs, nurses, and neonatologists sign a declaration stating, quote, as experienced practitioners and researchers in gynecology, we affirm that direct abortion, the purposeful destruction of an unborn child, is almost never medically necessary to save the life of a woman. So in the extraordinary...
So, unfortunately, what Charlie Kirk is saying right here is true. While these are edge cases worth talking about, for the most part, the overwhelming majority of abortions are being made not to save the life of the person who made it, you know? Like the overwhelming, like, vast majority. It's relevant to bring up, like, in moral, like, terms, but it's important to remember that we're talking about a very small portion of the actual...
Narrowly rare.
But they aren't exceedingly rare. Well, hold on. How many abortions are done to save mother's life? Why am I not seeing a stat on this? Shouldn't this be like a really easy thing to just look up and immediately find? Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry. We may never know. We'll never find out. It will remain forever a curiosity.
Rare case, which is so hard to find and pinpoint.
Well, it's not so hard to find. It happens, and there's many.
Very rare. Well, these
millions of
1,000
documented cases.
OBGYNs say no.
That's great, and there's a lot that say yes, and it happens, and you're aware it happens. So try not to use a distracting statistic. You're okay with it in those rare instances. Why?
Because there could be other children in the future that could be born.
That's my whole argument.
However,
if a woman's not ready to have a child now, there could be other children in the future when they are ready to raise them successfully in life.
I will correct my own previous statement by saying I don't even think it's ever medically necessary. Because these 1,000 OBGYNs and nurses have said you can have cesarean sections. That's not to say there might not be necessary medical treatments, but to use abortion as the medical necessary treatment, I think is almost never the case whatsoever. Case closed.
No, you can't say case closed.
Well, I don't trust the 1,000
We've done it.
Who say it's hard to pinpoint
Kirk.
and it's rare, but it happens.
Do you not trust the 1,000 OBGYNs?
I don't know who they are.
They did
There's
not say
millions of
never.
OBGYNs out there.
The 1,000 say you're wrong.
Oh, by the way, whenever you say shit like, we got together 1,000 doctors to say X, that shit's almost always wrong. There are millions of medical professionals around the world. If you go specifically looking for all the the pro-life anti-abortion ones, and they give that opinion, like, it doesn't mean anything. You have to look at broader data. Otherwise, he would be saying the medical research says you're wrong, not 1,000 people say you're wrong, you know?
And the 100 million others say that I'm right.
Let me ask you a question. You retweet Planned Parenthood quite a lot.
Sure.
Sure.
What do you have to say about
Chad.
Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger, who's a eugenicist?
Yep,
Says,
bring it up.
We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the black population. Does that bother you that Planned Parenthood is a eugenicist organization?
I've never heard that quote.
How about this one?
I doubt the authenticity of that quote, but if it's true, I obviously condemn that quote.
How about this one from Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger?
When in like 1910? What does that have to... Do we want to... Hey, Charlie Kirk, person who believes that Columbus did nothing wrong, do we want to talk about some of the shit that he did? How do you feel about the fact that America is a eugenicist organization? Or do we not want to talk about that? Is it suddenly irrelevant now when we come up? I love so much, by the way, this is the only time Republicans will pretend to give a single fuck about, like, black people and systemic racism. Because you... Oh my god. Because you know that they do not give a single shit otherwise. Like, they would never pretend to care. Ever, ever, ever. About any, like, org saying racist shit. But now it's like, oh, 100 years ago, the founder of Planned Parenthood was racist. Just like everyone else back then. The eugenicist movement was largely founded, like, in America.
Human beings, our goal is to eliminate human beings who never should have been born at all. Or birth control is nothing more or less weeding out the unfit. Are you comfortable associating yourself with eugenicists?
I'm not comfortable associating myself with eugenicists or that quote, if that answers your question.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure. Because
Awesome.
I got plenty for you.
Awesome. How many children do you have?
None yet.
Why?
Well, I got married in May, so it's a work in progress.
So you're working on having kids soon. Why haven't you adopted yet? Are you going to adopt kids that are in need of help?
So I do kind of live a busy life. But
We
I would
all
love to
live busy
adopt.
lives.
Actually, it's on the table.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So Charlie's going to adopt soon. Excellent.
Potentially.
At 8 weeks, we have tails. At 8 weeks, an embryo has tails. Do humans have tails, Charlie?
I'm sorry, what?
Serious question. Do human beings have tails?
I'm not exactly sure the essence of the
Do
question.
human beings have tails?
He doesn't know.
Do you have a tail?
You know,
He
I
doesn't
have
know because he's never seen an
never
ass.
met anyone with
IRL.
a tail. I'm not exactly sure the
Exactly. But
wisdom of the
fetuses have tails.
He sees a
Kinda
lot of
proves
furry
that at
porn.
that
He's getting
phase,
confused.
They are not a human being. They got tails. Humans don't have tails. We're not dinosaurs. Let me even show you a photo, if I may, okay? Do you truly, in your
I
heart
know
of
this.
hearts, truly believe that this is a human being? This,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus.
So let me.
Without a doubt, a dolphin fetus is a human being. This is a human fetus. Look how similar they look, but quite different. Dolphin. You just confirmed that a dolphin, in life, do you confuse dolphins for human babies often?
So let me
You
ask
go to
you a question.
SeaWorld and you're like, someone's got human babies in that aquarium. Get the human babies out of the aquarium.
Well, you labeled it as a human fetus.
No,
so
I
you
did
that
not.
dishonestly.
No, I did not.
No,
I
he
didn't label it
didn't.
as anything.
Let me. But you.
Doesn't say human fetus on there.
Let me ask you a question though. So let's hold up those two pictures again.
Sure.
Is there a moral difference between the dolphin and the baby?
At this stage,
He
no.
literally didn't. He was
no,
just
no,
like...
no. Confirm that.
Let me ask you. A human and a dolphin. Is it okay to?
He was just like, do you really think there's no difference between, or that this is a human baby? He didn't say it was a human baby. He just offered it, and Charlie Cook took the bait.
Kill one and not the other. Is there a difference morally between a human and a dolphin?
I don't like to kill dolphins, but when
Do you
they're
like
living,
do you like to kill babies?
no, I don't. And when they're living, I certainly am not in favor
Wait,
of killing
so
either. but obviously, I protect a human over a dolphin.
Hold up the human one.
Sure.
Is that not alive?
No, it is not alive.
Well, then how is it able to have a heartbeat?
It's attached to an alive being called a woman.
Wait, so
Who's
it
the
doesn't
mother?
have a heartbeat?
Be
Does it?
specific
No, it
with your
doesn't have a true
language.
heartbeat.
Oh, yes, it does.
At some point, it does.
22 days after conception, the child's heart begins to circulate. Not alive?
That is also disputed science and not
At
correct.
just 6 weeks, the child's eyes and eyelids, nose and mouth and tongue have formed. Not
no,
alive?
no, it is not a heartbeat at 22 weeks.
So
What-
wait, hold on. It's either dead or alive. Which one is it?
That
That's
is
not
not
what
true.
it
It is becoming.
Pick one.
It's dead currently. It is
Oh,
not
it's dead.
alive. It is not
Answer the
alive.
So you
question.
were once dead.
You
before
defined
were
life
alive?
as distinct. It's not distinct. It's attached
It's
to
totally
somebody
distinct.
feeding it. Distinct means on its own.
No,
is
it
it not
doesn't.
attached to
That's-
its mother?
That's a different. That's autonomous. not
distinct is the same.
Distinct means it has its own DNA, its own composition.
That's the definition.
But different shit within our own body is different DNA. Guys, don't different organs get like different fucking instructions on how to build themselves based on like the DNA encoding, like the sequencing or something? No? Or that's not DNA. It's like the same DNA, but they choose which to like work off of. All the DNA is the same in the person. Well, that does vary because there's parts of our bodies and our DNA sequence that literally isn't human, right? Isn't there like 10% of our DNA that's like bacteria? Like it's not even human DNA. It's just yeah, gut mitochondria and bacteria and shit hitched a ride. And they're like, yeah, buddy, let's go. You know what I mean? Yeah, different gene expression of the same DNA. There's like the DNA. I don't know how much that matters, right? Like what? Like how does that become the distinction for personhood? The DNA? Like I don't know. I feel like this makes Charlie very good to the audience. Well, okay, the dolphin human gotcha, the without a doubt, that was pretty fucking good. That was pretty fucking good. However, yes, this conversation is a massive shit show, which is why we're playing games during it, because otherwise, like, we're react-andying right now.
Definition of the word distinct is its own DNA and composition?
Well, that's the...
Incorrect.
So it is unique.
So is sperm, and so is eggs, and so is everything. Dolphins are unique. That doesn't mean you can or can't kill them or put them in aquariums.
There's 1 million abortions every single year. Do you think that's too many or not enough?
I think
I don't have it at what?
The mother decides with her own family is the right move for their life, and it's none of our damn business.
So if a mother murders an 18-month-old, is that okay?
No, it's not the human being. It's an autonomous
So it becomes a human being the moment it comes out of the womb.
Right, when it
So what
can
do you say about now
breathe.
the youngest pregnancy ever done, 22 weeks and 1 day, that baby is now 1 year old? Was that not a human being when it was delivered by C-section?
I don't follow. Say that again.
What? So last year, the youngest ever human being on record was delivered at 22 weeks and 1 day. That baby is now 1 year old since the time of that birth.
This is now a living baby, you're correct.
That's okay, so as soon as it comes out of the womb, it is living.
It's a
if it's
person.
alive when it comes out of the
That's
womb,
the
we don't
position.
know, right? A lot of babies die at childbirth. That's why you don't know until
Not
they're
a lot
born.
of babies die at childbirth.
Yeah, a lot.
Very, very
a
low.
Depends on the
Can
country
someone
you're
Google
in.
that for me, please? Can you please Google how many babies die at childbirth every year?
We have some of the lowest childbirth mortality rates in the world, thankfully.
No, we do not. We have some of the highest. We have some of the highest. United States infant mortality rate places us 16th among the nations of the world.
How many nations are there,
Thousands of
Ben?
infants die each year.
How many nations are there? Dude, like 150 nations are like tiny fucking micro island nations and countries that if they scrapped all their resources together could build like one car, okay? When we're talking about developed countries, being in 16th place is pretty fucking bad for the wealthiest country on the planet. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Because of inadequate medical care that you often vote against and don't support.
I'm not elected official.
But you support
What?
things and you have the influence of millions. You don't have a vote? Are you suppressing your own
What?
vote now too, or just others?
Are you saying that I vote in Congress?
I'm saying that you vote.
What? Charlie! Charlie, you know you're being stupid here. Come on, dude. You don't even support good medical care. Oh yeah? Well, am I the president of the United States? What are you saying? You're one of the most influential political figures in the country. Even if you weren't, even if you were just a random person, it would still be a salient argument. What are you saying right now?
In elections, and you decide who goes to Congress, do you not? And do you not support bills or not support bills based on your massive influence?
I know
think you do.
you're getting really worked up.
No, I'm not.
So let me
Also,
ask you a question.
Just
we
ignore
ranked
it.
33
Ignore
out
his
of
stupid
36
fucking statement,
in the
dude.
Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Nations, OECD nations, ranked by U.S. News and World Report for prenatal and early childhood care. That you often do not support. In fact, recently, when Biden suggested just $225 billion to support children more in the early years of their lives.
Based.
You went against it and said, oh, capping it while theoretically, you paid empty lip service to it and said, well, theoretically it's a good idea. $225 billion is so expensive, and it caps the amount they can spend on their children at 7% of income a year, and by doing that, there's no incentives then for them to seek cost-effective care.
Right, yeah, of course. Hey, isn't it funny that Joe Biden is single-handedly proving himself to be more pro-family than every single person on the right? We saw this with Steven Crowder and Joe Walsh as well, where they're like, yeah, dude, we're anti-paternity leave because we don't care about families, but actually we're the pro-family party. And Biden's like, yeah, Jack, let's just spend billions making sure you can take care of your kids. And Republicans are like, no! Republicans fucking soy screaming. No! Taking care of children. No! How could they do this to me?
When you had no problem with Donald Trump spending $8 trillion, giving trillions and trillions of tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires, and raising the national debt to $27 trillion.
Can I be
no
honest
issue
about
with that.
Can I
But
be
helping
honest
the
about
kids
that?
that you
Can I-
care about so much, the babies you care about so much, that you want
Can I
to
say
force
something
women
stupid?
to give birth to them, and then they can go themselves once they're born because you don't give a shit and you vote against it constantly.
Base.
Bravo!
Can I be
What a
honest?
hill to die on.
I have no idea
Based.
what the heck you're talking
You
about.
don't? Well, you've went on
He
the record
doesn't
about it.
know?
That's pretty incredible. You don't know what I'm
Go
talking
find
about.
one of your note cards.
got a lot of cards.
Let's talk about the Holocaust that's happening in our country.
He completely evaded. The virgin comedian dude pointing out that Charlie Kirk's policy prescriptions are completely antithetical to his stated morals, and the Chad Charlie Kirk who says, I don't even know what you're talking about. Anyway, and then moves on. The Chad completely evading accountability.
country. So for
Say a
you,
Holocaust again, you're gonna have a problem with me because again, my family died in that. Remember?
Then let's dive right into that. So there's a Holocaust happening in our country of 1 million abortions a
Yeah,
year of our
get into
fellow
it.
countrymen
That's your
being
offensive
slaughtered.
words.
So the Holocaust that's occurring, administered by Planned Parenthood, has a disproportionate impact in the black community. In Texas, 70% of all abortions are minorities, and 37% of all abortions are blacks. Why are you okay with that?
Why are you okay with dictating what the black community should do? Now Charlie Kirk should decide what the black community does?
Actually, I want more black people. Do you want less or
You
more
should
black
tell
people?
them how many babies they should have?
I want to protect all black babies.
Except with funding.
So here's the record.
Except with helping them have easier lives.
You want less
or helping
black children?
Lift.
I want more black children.
No,
that
no,
would
no.
be a
No.
racist position.
Oh no, you're the
I love, dude. This is quickly turning into like a Jesse Lee Peterson tier conversation. This is so fucking good. I love this shit. Holy fuck. I want more black babies. It's so good. Pure American politics right here. This is what it's all about, baby.
racist position. I want the exact number of black children that the black communities decide that they want and black mothers decide they want to give birth to, and not force them to do so, and especially not force them to do so and then not provide any of the funding necessary to lift them up out of oftentimes poverty situations. Oftentimes you are forcing people to not only then give birth to babies they don't want, but then you're sliding them further into poverty. It costs about $1 million over the course of a lifetime of a child to raise a child. And it's easy for you to say, you're a trust fund baby who was born rich. It's easy for you to say when you've never had to struggle for money. These people are born in difficult circumstances. They get pregnant accidentally or at the hands of an abuser, the hands of a rapist, the hands of a mistake when they were 16. Maybe it's their third child and their husband and them had sex and accidentally got pregnant, and you're forcing them to have it and sticking them further and further in poverty with no effort and no funding to help lift them out of that. But you care so much about babies that you think are dolphins.
So what percentage of abortions are rape?
He's done this like 4 times now, where Charlie Kirk will just completely ignore. Oh God. Just move right on. Well, just remember, if you're ever in a position like this, if for some reason you're debating Charlie Kirk or anybody like Charlie Kirk, I guess, just remember that there's nothing wrong with just holding them to the point. You know? If he does that, you can just say, hey, you going to respond to what I said, or you going to run away from it? He's going to be like, well, I want to... No, it's just keep repeating it, yeah. I don't know if you can repeat that whole tirade, but you can get the gist across.
That are attributed to rape.
Not gonna lie, I was hoping you would have gone this hard on Kirk. Nah, Tim Pool's audience is... First of all, Charlie Kirk never went this hard on me. He was demure, submissive, and breedable after the first 5 minutes, so it would have been a bit of a sort of tonal dissonance. And second of all, Tim Pool's audience is extremely, like, civility-pilled or whatever. You know, like, why are leftists so mean to the Nazis? I think punching Richard Spencer, Antifa bad, blah, blah, like that shit, you know? So in an audience like that, I think that sort of performative civility is super important.
Do you not think rape exists?
I do. What percentage of abortions are attributed to rape?
I don't know, but any of them is too many.
Since you're a subject matter expert,
any pregnancy due to
what percentage of abortions are attributable to rape?
I don't know.
Oh, guys, can I be totally real with you? I don't get the whole rape and incest exception thing. I genuinely don't. And all the reasons that you would think that abortion should be allowed for rape or for incest should also apply to non-rape or non-incest. It makes, like, no sense, you know? Like, okay, like, maybe you have you're pregnant because of a rape, okay? Like, does that make your abortion any more, like, valid? I don't know. Like, what if you get pregnant to a dude you fucking hate? Like, what factor exacerbates it apart from some sort of, you know, general dislike for rape? Because they didn't choose. If you're getting an abortion, you probably didn't choose to get pregnant anyway. They didn't choose to have sex, sure, but people who get abortions generally didn't choose to get pregnant and then change their mind. Like, in either case, the thing that you're ending here is the pregnancy, you know? Seems weird. It seems like it's what you're really doing is giving conservatives, like, an excuse to just move over on their positions later. It feels like if you hold them to that, being like, so you really think it's okay to kill a baby just because the mother was raped? They would probably say, like, actually, no. Now that I've thought about it for 3 seconds, actually, no. It sucks, but you should probably... God has a plan, okay? Yeah. It's a matter of if you have sex willingly, then you know the risk associated with it. Yeah, but that was always kind of a bullshit argument, right? That always seemed like it was kind of a bullshit argument. To go back to the whole, like, piano player hooked up to give them dialysis analogy, I don't think it changes that much depending on whether you consented to being there or whether you were kidnapped. In both cases, the fundamental question is, does your convenience override the life of another? To which the answer is you saying yes and then running out of there.
I don't know the answer to that.
What is the number one reason given for abortion in America?
Do you know that 1 in 4
Answer the question.
The number one reason given for
abortion
question
is they are not ready to have a child and can't do it.
So you're okay. I just want to make sure the moral position. Not a child unless it's born, even though it can feel, even though it can breathe, even though it has a heartbeat.
Can't feel
eyelids.
and can't breathe.
No, we already went through this, all right?
We did. Can't feel and can't
you're
breathe.
entitled to your own opinion, not to your own facts.
Correct, you too.
You are taking the anti-science position.
No.
From as early as 12 weeks, and
So
certainly by 20 weeks,
stupid.
an unborn child can feel pain. And by 10 weeks after conception, the child can make bodily movements. Electrical brain activity could be detected to 6 or 7 weeks.
I've never denied they are not growing into becoming human beings.
But what percentage of abortions do you think are attributable when people say, I got it because I was raped? What percentage?
I bet it's a pretty low percentage.
Yes, less than 1%.
Yes, but that's 1 out of 100.
So most are abortions out of convenience.
But
when was that not argued?
To frame it as somebody being irresponsible, not being ready to bring a child into this world is not convenience. It's smart family planning that you are against. You're against Planned Parenthood. You're for forced parenthood. You're not for.
Let me ask you a question.
You're not for life. You're for forced birth.
The rape question aside.
Well, why the rape question aside?
Because it's such a small percentage.
No, but you keep taking these slices that you don't.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. You
don't want to deal
1%.
with and throwing them away.
Since you did some images, let me ask you.
One second.
So now we're going to upgrade
it. When a child is born or when a child is going to be born and risk the life of the mother, you say that's so rare it doesn't count. When someone is raped, that's so rare it doesn't count. 1 in 100 times though happens.
Well, it certainly counts. I'm just asking.
Why do you not push for legislation that has exceptions for rape and incest? Why?
Well, because it's just equal to human life, and I'll prove it to you.
So it's equal to human life.
So which one of these? I have 2 pictures.
Yep.
One of these babies was conceived in rape. One of these babies was conceived in a consensual relationship. Which one's which?
You know why? Obviously, I don't know the answer to that.
Did they both bring picture? This is every abortion argument, man. People just you come out there and everyone has their fucking backpack full of pictures. What the fuck?
No, because I wasn't involved in the traumatic life experience of the mother that one of them resulted in rape and one didn't.
So one of these babies.
Every time you speak about abortion, you always skip over the mother
we need a lem and a co,
gives
so we
life
don't have
to that baby and raises and gestates that baby.
Which one of these babies was formed in a consensual relationship or not?
Let me make sure I understand the question here. Let me make sure I understand the question. Your question is, which one of these babies was born in a consensual relationship and which one was born over the incredibly traumatic, mind-numbing, horrible, horrific experience of having to carry to term the child of your rapist, of your daughter watching at home's rapist that he wants to force. Anybody have a pro-birth, forced birth opinion will make you carry to term and be the mother of a rapist baby.
You can't tell the difference.
Be cast out of your social circles.
Because they're both human beings that deserve to be able to live.
And you skip over the care and the trauma of the human being of the mother.
Let's talk about the care.
Why do you not care about the mother?
I do care about the mother. I care about the mother so much
0% you care about the mother.
I want to talk about this. So let's talk about adoption. How many families?
He is really just cycling through these topics. By the way, like I think my position on this is going to be forthcoming. Okay, I think that honestly, the best way to deal with abortion, like anti-abortion activists, is just to call them dishonest cunts. Because if they actually gave a fuck, they'd be super in favor of all of the myriad social programs that you can use to reduce unwanted pregnancies. Okay, from subsidizing like medical research into educating and like researching and developing like everything from contraceptives to like full on like reversible surgeries and stuff. Can you imagine if like legit, like wouldn't this be the best imaginable world? What if like when you're getting your vaccine shots or something, when you're like 10 or 12 or whatever, one of the shots just like it just like makes you like infertile if you keep it up once a year, and you can just stop taking it when you want. Wouldn't that in and of itself just immediately eliminate. Like, if you could do that with no potential side effects or whatever, or just something like that, that would conceptually fix, like, the entire issue. That's called birth control? Yeah, I know. I'm talking about birth control. Yeah. Claim this is voluntary? Oh, yeah, voluntary. Sorry. Just like you could get it along with any other kind of, like, medical stuff that you do. And if you normalize that, wouldn't that make things, like, so much better? Child pregnancies are, like, super fucking damaging to kids or whatever. And all the evidence that we have makes it incredibly clear that providing contraceptive availability to kids does not make them have sex more. Kids will fuck just as much, whether they have condoms around or not, whether they're educated on sex or not, whether they're given abstinence-only education or not, because they're high schoolers. I was doing it in high school. What? Yeah, no shit. So if they're going to do that, the best you can do is make sure they do it safely. But conservatives don't give a fuck about safe practices or improving the lives of kids or making things better for, like, the unborn or whatever. What they care about is punishing women who have sex. Let's be fucking real. That's what they care about. Because the reason they only focus on this shit, the reason they hyperfixate on this particular avenue for addressing what they consider to be a great moral wrong is because this is the one that allows them to be moralistic and punitive towards groups of people they don't like, okay? That's it. That's the only reason. Because if it weren't for that, they would be massively in favor of anything you could do to stop unwanted pregnancies. Instead, they do the opposite. They advocate for things that increase unwanted pregnancies, like abstinence-only education. It is objectively, provably a contributor to that, and they advocate for it anyway. The only possible explanation for that, the only thing that you can do to explain that, is that they don't actually care about fetuses. They only care about punishing women who have sex. That's it.
Well, my card's pretty good.
How many families do you think are waiting for children right now to adopt in America?
Charlie, you're aware that there are far more...
Ballpark.
There are far more babies in foster homes and, I mean, in the foster program and in orphanages
Just
than...
take a guess.
There's not enough.
Guess.
There's not enough.
Guess.
Guess what?
How many families are waiting to adopt right now in America on waiting lists?
I don't know the answer.
Just guess a little bit.
1 million.
2 million.
Okay. And
How many abortions are there every single year?
Item.
Your point is what?
Guess.
Your point is what?
Yes.
Your point is what? Let's say it's exactly 2 million, I bet
A
is
million.
what your gotcha. Okay,
So there's
great.
twice as many families waiting to adopt than we terminate children every single year.
And you're aware there are also children who are...
Yeah, okay, wait, but how many kids are in the foster system? Hold on. How many children in American foster system? There are 400,000. Also, these parents waiting to adopt, they also aren't limited just to American kids, right? They're limited to kids, like, anywhere around the world if they really want to adopt a kid. Doesn't China have, like, a fuck ton of... Yeah. The idea that, like, forcing women to give birth is going to lead to happier adoptive families is so fucking stupid. A lot of kids from Haiti are adopted in the US. Good! You know why? Because as far as I can tell, living in Haiti fucking sucks, dude. Holy shit. With the way God's been treating them lately, they're probably going to get hit by a tsunami next year, you know? Save them. Save them from whatever the fuck is coming to that place next. Jesus Christ.
in the adoptive care system that cannot get adopted, right? Are you aware of that fact?
I can't believe we got best in
care
slot.
system in the
Holy
foster
shit.
care system.
Because a lot of people are forced through restrictive abortion laws that people
Because of
like you force on
bureaucracy
people who don't
and
care.
red tape. So we should make it easier to adopt. Do you agree?
Sure.
Okay, so we agree. So therefore, if we get rid of abortion, we have enough families waiting to adopt, and every child will be taken care of.
And yet again,
we have solved the abortion
No,
issue,
we haven't,
everybody.
because-
and Ben agrees.
No, because yet
enough
again-
families to adopt.
No.
All the abortions
Because
would go
look-
away, and everyone gets a
because look
loving
how well
parent.
you-
And Ben
Hey,
would have to go
look-
back to obsessing about.
Wow, I just had another sick idea. You know what might actually lead to far fewer abortions? What if giving birth to a child was free? Like, you really think a mom who doesn't want to take care of the kid is going to sit through 9 months of physical agony and then give birth when it costs $25,000? Maybe if childbirth was free. Wait, it's not free? Oh, my European friends. Dude. Trust me, I've solved the adoption and childbirth problem, okay? Just have these poor families or poor single mothers who don't want to take care of a kid, just bill them $10,000 or higher for a C-section, not to mention all the associated costs with taking care of the kid early on in life. Or you could have a state-subsidized system for immediately adopting children. But hey, guys, quick question. If we abort 1 million babies a year, and then suddenly, magically, we stopped aborting all of them and just had all of them taken into child foster care, and there are 2 million expectant adoptive families, wouldn't it only take us 2 years to completely rebalance that imbalance? Wouldn't that mean that for every year after the first 2, for centuries onward, we would add another 1 million unwanted children to the total number of foster kids? Not thinking that one out too good. I don't know.
Not sperm.
Look how well you, again, skipped right over the mother. You refuse to talk about the mother or the experience of giving birth because you don't know what it's like, nor do I.
Let's take...
You skipped right over it. So your argument is, let's make everyone who's raped, force them to have a baby, go through that trauma, and then the trauma of giving up the baby for adoption, just so people can have a baby that don't currently have one. How about also not traumatizing women and respecting the autonomy of women? Why is it that you are in favor of limited government in every way, as small of government as possible, except in the uterus of women?
So if it's not your DNA,
you're against
why is it your
government
choice?
Overreach, but not government inner reach.
If it's not your DNA...
You like government reaching in a uterus and deciding for a woman what it does.
Hilariously, that's you, because you want to put the abortionist in the uterus.
No,
by
I want to respect women's choices to make the decision best for them.
Woman respecter.
What I want is to make it illegal for abortionists and the abortion industry to continue to massacre and create a genocide and Holocaust.
Killing all the
dolphins. He's getting more bold with time. It's like with the Holocaust thing, you know? He's got to start being more evocative, you know? I don't want them to continue to set up Auschwitzes in women's wombs. Just looking him dead in the eye while he's doing it.
The dolphin Holocaust must end. You're right. We have to stop. That's Charlie Kirk's point, everybody.
See,
he's obsessed with women's uteruses, and he wants to kill as many dolphins as possible.
So, Ben, let me ask you a question.
Creepily obsessed with women's bodies, telling them what they can and can't do, making them give birth, even if they're raped.
So, Ben, let me ask you a question.
Hey, you know what would be the ultimate fucking game for this dude to play? The Jewish guy, the comedian? He should be like, I personally think it's incredibly anti-Semitic that you're continuously comparing Jews to literal underdeveloped humans. You said that I'm the one who aligns with eugenicists. Well, you're right. I think I might be in the studio of one right now. If he could pull that off perfectly, that would be such a fucking slap, dude. Oh, God, I wasn't paying attention.
And he wants to make sure that dolphins
Let me ask you a question.
We stop the dolphin genocide.
Let me ask you a question. Is abortion ever wrong?
Is abortion ever wrong? You need to be more specific. I don't know what
that means. Answer the question.
Ever wrong?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Is it ever wrong to conduct an abortion or facilitate an abortion?
I think, in my, again, personal opinion, if it is towards the end of a term and a child is viable, a potential child is viable on its own outside of the womb, and it's not for some serious abnormality that would make the child very likely to not survive long in life or to risk the life of the mother, I think that would be a pretty wrong thing to do. That's my opinion.
Why shouldn't the laws reflect that then?
I'm okay personally with the laws reflecting that.
You what?
I'm okay personally with the laws reflecting that.
Hey, here's a question, Charlie Kirk and pro-abortion deuterinos or whatever. Hey, if you go on holiday and you leave your main house for a while and come back to find that there's like some kid who's like squatting there or whatever, and they say like, hey, I really, I have no other place to stay, like, you know, this is the only place that I can live right now, like, it's cold out there, you, like, please, like, let me stay, right? Do you think that Charlie Kirk would say you have a moral obligation to shelter them? Probably not, right? He would probably not say that. And we're not even talking about developed human beings here. We're talking about fetuses that are the size of, like, a quarter or whatever. You know what I mean? All the arguments that he's making about, like, protecting life are so uniquely and specifically developed to only apply to pregnant mothers, you know? Like, all the arguments he's making, like, about the affirmative responsibility that we all have to shelter and protect life, you know, he would never make these arguments about any other institution or any other scenario because they might come back around and affect him or the conservative donors who promote his organization.
Term abortion.
I'm okay personally, but again, I'm not a woman, so I'm speaking kind of out of turn here, but I personally don't love the idea of a late-term abortion. But you're against abortion in any way.
That's correct, yeah, but I'm just, that's actually news. I didn't realize that was your position.
That's my personal opinion.
But then,
sure.
like, at what week would you draw that? Because then,
like I said, when a child is likely to be viable outside of the womb.
So let's say the third
around.
trimester then.
For me personally, I'm personally okay with that. But there are instances, like I said, when that needs to be done. And did you know, since you love throwing stats at me, that less than 1% of cases is it a third trimester abortion, and those cases are almost always when it is the life of the mother or serious abnormalities that the child would not survive.
So if it's less
in which case I'm not against it.
If it's less than 1%, then we should be able to abolish it. And now the Texas law, which you have been a big critic of,
yes,
is at 6 weeks. 6 weeks, which we've already stated the facts. At 6 weeks, the child's eyes, eyelids, nose, mouth, and tongue
it's not
are formed.
relevant.
That sounds like a human being, not a dolphin.
No, the shape of them. They're still webbed. They're still sitting there. I don't know how boring your life has been,
so let me
but
ask you a
life
question.
is not this. Sitting in gel, floating. That's not life. Life's out in the world.
So let me ask you a question.
Life's out in the world.
Okay, I know that the comedian dude is a comedian and not some sort of debate bro, but there are some questions that he could ask here. First of all, the fact that Charlie Kirk keeps bringing up the physical attributes of partially developed fetuses is an indication that he's being dishonest about his moral grounding. He makes the argument that life begins at conception. If he actually believed that, then the physical characteristics shouldn't matter. Hypothetically, you could have like a fertilized egg just float for 9 months, and he would defend it equally that entire time, and then it would magically transform into a human at the end, and he would say that entire time during which it was nothing more than a fertilized egg, with no signs of evident human development, it was still worthy of moral protection. So it's very obviously like an attempted appeal to a person's emotions, which is tends to be how these fucking debates go anyway. But that's really annoying. Additionally, like, the comedian keeps giving Charlie Kirk a lot of ground. It's also really important to remember we're not actually talking about morals. We're talking about law. The abortion argument is ultimately about law, okay? Because I think most people would agree that the circumstances by which something like an abortion are or are not moral varies depending on conditions that we might not exactly have access to. I bet you if I could talk to Charlie Kirk, he would agree that an abortion isn't as bad as, like, shooting a person in the chest who's, like, 32 years old or whatever. I could probably get him to agree on that because he would argue about some emergent characteristics about living that make you more entitled to continuing your life, or something about bodily autonomy or whatever. He's still saying that, like, it's that the fertilized egg is a person, but there are other characteristics. He might say they're equal. I feel like it'd be very easy to dismantle that if actually asked about it, you know? Because if that was the case, like, if that was genuinely the case, then, like, you would ask Charlie Kirk, like, okay, then why the fuck haven't you been suicide bombing abortion clinics? Huh? If you really think a murder is taking place in there every single time, I mean, like, I feel like there are a lot of hypotheticals that you could run out really, really quickly. To be fair, there are some evangelicals who will do that, and I guess congratulations for their ethical consistency. But Charlie Kirk would probably argue that you have to, like, move mountains to prevent a murder or something. But then for abortion, like, he seems to be a little more chill about it. I wonder why that is. I'm sure I could get him to concede there are some differences. And even if I couldn't, by the way, like, we're still talking about law at the end of the day, more so than anything else. Not like actual raw ethics, you know? You could believe that abortion is, like, kind of wrong. Why do I suck so bad? You could believe that abortion is kind of wrong, and then, but still think that it should be illegal, you know? Like, honest to God, that's kind of my position. I think that doing an abortion is doing a little bit of harm, but I think that preventing people from being able to have abortions is doing a lot of harm. Yeah. Like, yeah, to me, the legal prevention of abortion causes way more harm than any potential, like, than allowing people to do abortions ever could by far. Because my position is that personhood is an emergent characteristic which arises from our conscious experience with the world. Or, to put it another way, you could say that a fetus is a life but not really a person, because consciousness isn't really something we can measure objectively in others, but there are certainly thresholds where we can determine the likelihood of its evident existence. And while I don't know where that point is exactly, I do know one thing for sure, and it's that a fertilized egg is not a person. I believe that with every fiber of my being. If consciousness, and thus personhood, is an emergent characteristic of experience with the world, a fertilized egg cannot be a person. I know that. But I do know that I am a person. So at some point between being 27 years old and a white boy, and being 0 years old and a fertilized egg, at some point along that line, personhood emerged. Something changed. Something developed, you know? Now, if I wanted to, I could be dishonest and say, I think personhood develops when you're born, but I would be lying, because I don't know if that's true. What I do know is that we have to develop an arbitrary legal standard when it comes to assigning people rights, assigning personhood. And birth seems like a good place to do that. It's a subjective standard. I don't think there's a way to form an objective standard on it. So that's my belief, you know? Does that make sense?
Maybe this is why you go home and you just chill at home like, ah.
Over 500,000 people are currently hooked up to a machine and comatose. According to you, being a webbed person or being somewhat non-human is okay. Should we just pull the plug of all of them?
No, because developed living human beings are different than ones by your own terms are not living. Let me quote you yet again. You said on your YouTube, quote, Planned Parenthood conducts 300,000 abortions a year.
Yes.
That is
300,000 murders.
And then the second part of the sentence, that is
300,000 Auschwitzes
that never had a chance to exist. By your own words.
You know what I mean by that.
No, I don't. By your own words, you said embryos and fetuses do not exist. It's your words. It never had a chance to exist.
That is a sloppy, dishonest,
it's a perfect argument.
Low IQ argument.
Let
me get on to that. To be able to fully exist like you and I have. You know that's dishonest.
No, that's not true, sir.
You know that's low IQ.
The phase that...
You know that's sloppy. So let me ask you a question.
I'm speaking of the phase that you think is the same as a dolphin.
Let me ask you a question.
And you are saying that I can't tell if it's a dolphin or not, but I must protect it. But then you also say a fetus does not exist, never has a chance to exist. It has not lived yet.
Dude.
You're 27, not 28. You said it yourself.
Let me continue on with that argument.
For your 28th birthday, I will take you to...
By Charlie's logic, vaccine mandates are pro-life. That is true, by the way. I know that they make the argument that you can't be pro-choice and also pro-vaccine mandate, which is not true. But their logic actually does mean you would have to, you could easily morally justify vaccine mandates. Because what you're essentially doing when you don't get a vaccine is you're threatening the lives of other people. Like, that's a very, very, very direct thing to say, you know? That your personal convenience, even if it's your, quote, choice, can't allow you to, like, make decisions that'll harm other people.
SeaWorld, and we can look at the dolphins and be sad about it.
Happy to have another 9 months onto my birthday, which is a really bizarre argument. But
an amazing argument, you know that.
Let's say
You're
we
even changing your birthday for it.
Let's say you were right.
Thank you.
So, for a second,
we just decided it. I'm right.
For a second,
and that's the
do you ever doubt that
62
million abortions is something that we should be worried about, something that's wrong with that? Let's just use the racial thing, which you tend to always try to incite. All the black babies that were never born, all the Hispanic babies that were never born. Does that ever...
What do you mean that you always try to incite? Charlie Kirk keeps bringing up race baiting with, like, the black abortion rate and eugenics and stuff like that. And he only said at one point that, like, abortions are, like, a racialized issue because of relative levels of access. Charlie Kirk is the one who keeps bringing up race. The race baiting. It's so good.
Bother you?
Does it ever bother you that you still, despite me making this point already, are trying to dictate for these communities of color what they should do with their families, and then once you force them to have this baby, you don't help them at all?
Okay, let's talk. We'll talk about both of them. Number one,
Sure.
I will with every ounce of my being, intervene to dictate that babies are allowed to live. You seem indifferent to that.
Until they're born. Until they're actually born, in which case Charlie turns into the most laissez-faire fucking capitalist libertarian. The nanosecond, you know, they fall out, all of a sudden their life is no longer of any concern to my man, Charlie K.
And
no, you
jokingly
were okay
compare babies and dolphins. That's fine. That's okay.
You compared them.
And
You
so,
said they were 100%
no, because
human life.
You dishonestly put up both
No,
pictures. That's
I
fine.
proved a point perfectly.
I would expect the same from, you know, a B-rate comic
You did the
like
same
you.
kind.
Ooh,
you're a B-rate
he's mad.
commentator. You did the same exact thing with your
Let
photos.
me continue by saying, which you couldn't
You
tell
did
the
the
difference.
same thing with your photos.
He couldn't tell the difference between a human being conceived in rape,
yes,
or in a consensual
that proves
relationship.
You couldn't
my
tell the
point
difference
better,
between a human
Charlie.
being and a
Hold on, let me ask you
dolphin.
question. I couldn't tell the difference because
so,
exactly
let me ask
fetuses
you
are
a
not
question.
distinct special beings until they are born.
Let me ask you a
That's
question.
why you can't tell the difference.
This is a really stupid like thing because the point is that Charlie Kirk kept trying to use physical features as a way of determining like the humanity, like the personhood of a fetus. So pointing out that he can't tell the difference between those features in a dolphin or a human is a perfectly like analogous and incredibly valid counterargument to make. Whereas Charlie Kirk's argument was like holding up two photos, which of these is a rape baby? Like that's not analogous or comparison or clever in any way. Because nobody was ever he was never making the argument. Like that would only be valid if the comedian was saying like, dude, rape babies look different. Look how different they look. That's why we should abort them more. Or some insane shit, which he never said. So the comparison is just not, yeah, it's really dumb.
Between
If it's
rape
not your
fetuses
DNA,
and consensual fetuses or dolphin fetuses or human fetuses.
If it's not your
you
DNA,
proved my point twice.
If it's not your DNA, why should it be your choice?
Exactly. It's not your DNA, so why are you choosing for these women?
It's not the DNA of the baby then.
No, it is half the DNA of the mother and half of the father.
So should the father have a say?
I think the father should be able to consult with the mother if the mother so chooses.
Should the father override an abortion?
You just said, Charlie, of course not, he should not be able to override it. It's the mother's choice. She's
I thought you
carrying
said it's
the
half
baby.
the father.
It's half his DNA, so he should be consulted. That would be nice.
You know, most states it's illegal. It's not legal to do it.
It's not legal to consult a father? Of course it's legal.
You don't have to consult it by law.
Fine, because it's the woman.
Okay. Wait, what is that? Wait, Charlie Kirk said it's not legal. Wait, that would imply that it's illegal to consult the father. There's no state in which it's illegal to consult the father. You can always consult the father. But it's not in their belly. And the argument here is about removing things from your belly. Simple as that.
Woman carrying
but if it's not your
you
DNA,
just said if it's not your DNA, you shouldn't have a say.
That's right. So the mother and the father, it's not their DNA anymore.
So why do
DNA
you
is
have a
formed.
say in babies of which you have none of the DNA?
Well, it's like saying,
Why do you have a say
why do we have
in
say
the
in
babies?
murder laws and theft laws, rape laws and arson laws?
Because those are to protect human beings
which begins
who are
at
living.
conception.
In your opinion.
In the opinion of
Because
embryology
you happen
science,
to be an evangelical. You happen to be a Catholic, correct?
not even close.
You're not a Catholic.
Don't you have a card for that?
You're an evangelical
Did I
Christian.
really
What
not
are you?
leave a title?
Evangelical
I'm a
Christian.
Evangelical
JMS.
Christian.
Okay,
And you're a B-rate comic, right?
and you're a C-rate political hack. What's your
How did
point?
your Netflix?
Getting
You
mad
can
now.
throw names. I'll be
I'm
like,
getting
it was
mad.
trending on Netflix for 2 years. Have you ever been on Netflix? You should go for it. It's one of the top platforms out there in the
I
world.
heard they took it off.
Yeah, they did. After 2 years, they took it off. Great point. You ever been on Netflix?
I wouldn't
I
want
also
it.
got a show dropping on Disney Plus soon, so please check that out.
I wouldn't want to. Cope. Fucking cope. I wouldn't even want to be on Netflix. They're full of libtards. I don't care.
Goodness, they couldn't pay me to be on that awful platform.
Yeah, I know. Did not have you on a family-friendly
Oh,
platform. That's for
dude.
sure. With your obsession with women's uteruses, they probably.
Hey, I just want you guys to know. Okay? Are you guys ready for it? Okay? I'm actually not mad that I haven't gotten to go on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, Tucker Carlson's show, and every other major news network, okay? I'm not angry that I have not been able to use their platforms to promote my message. I'm not mad, okay? I'm also extremely not angry that I haven't won every single award I've ever not won, okay? Everything in my life is perfect, and I'm not mad.
Strongly make sure that doesn't happen.
I want to see as many babies live as possible.
Your religious beliefs inform your opinions on
course.
abortion, yes. But
However,
mine inform mine.
I haven't made one religious argument this entire time.
Sure, but all I'm saying is you keep saying.
Well, doesn't something magical happen? I don't know. Check your armor. Oh, shit. Good point. I was wearing a fucking... I was wearing a dingy fucking rag. As one. All right.
That life begins at conception, that's an idea you have informed by your religious beliefs.
Then
Judaism says life begins with the first breath.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
That is a misinterpretation
And
of the text of Exodus. Let me ask
Judaism
you,
gives preference to the woman, not the unborn fetus.
You want to talk about the Torah?
And that's my religion.
So what does it say in Jeremiah? I knew you before what?
I have no idea.
You were in the womb. What does it say in Leviticus about unborn children?
Wow, somebody wrote that I knew.
Wait, what? I knew you before you were in the womb? Wouldn't that be an argument that life begins at a sperm cell? Because before you're in the womb, what's before that? What? Life actually begins when the spermies are in your balls. You know how many sperm get reabsorbed into your balls? Every day? It's a lot. It's like 2 Auschwitzes. Just chilling down there, you know? It's fucked up.
Knew you before you're in the room?
Yes, somebody called Jeremiah a minor character in the Bible.
The Bible's beautiful, but it's allegories. So if you're going to take the specific words and say it's some kind of scientific book, it's not a scientific book. It's a good moral guide.
It's the Word of God, Ben.
In your opinion.
No.
But you can't enforce your religious opinion on the world. That's why on the country especially.
I've been making secular arguments.
Sure.
So I'm just asking, as someone who says you were offended by the Holocaust, where millions of Jews...
As somebody who... Oh, dude, I couldn't get away with this, man. People called me anti-Semitic for the fucking Israel shit. I could not get away with this. As a Jew who claims, you know, you've made the argument, perhaps at least you're allegedly offended about, you know, the genocide of your people.
Jews were killed. Why are you seemingly indifferent with the millions of Americans that are being killed?
Because they're not Americans. You have to be born on U.S. soil to be an American. Again, you prove my point.
That is true. By pretty much any definition, whether or not you are an American, that's a political argument, and for political purposes, you know, citizenship starts at birth.
No,
Thank you.
human beings.
The definition of an American is being born on U.S. soil. Born.
So
born or naturalized.
Let me
no Americans are killed every year through abortion. Thank you. Another point.
The Black
in
Panthers.
my column. Love
the Black Panthers
move
said,
on, move on,
which I disagree with the Black Panthers on a lot, but they said that abortion is a black genocide on the community.
Okay.
Good for them.
Yeah, is this guy
they're of course wrong.
Is this guy a Black Panther? What is that? This is the most disingenuous id-pull argument in the universe, dude. I found some black people who I've spent my entire career arguing against the principles of. Can you explain why you disagree with these black people who I've spent my entire career arguing against the principles of? Hey, I found these black nationalist, socialist militants. Can you explain why you are racistly disagreeing with them? Oh yeah, I disagree with them on like everything. Sure. But like, but you do too.
I've been arguing this whole time. It is not a genocide. Genocides are genocides, and genocides take place of humans, not of undeveloped, still developing fetuses that will become humans that you think are dolphins.
What species is a fetus? On the animal kingdom hierarchy.
What species is a skin cell?
Or no?
It is a part of a woman human being that is growing.
What species
is a woman?
Fetus?
A woman is a human being.
A fetus, what species is it?
It will become a Homo sapien.
So it's not current. When does that species change?
At birth. How hard is this concept? We keep saying birth.
So you're making an argument that all of a sudden the baby goes through metamorphosis of a species change? That's a unique and very bizarre argument.
No, I never said species change. I said it's becoming a full living, breathing Homo sapien.
But what is it before? So what
happens.
species is a fetus? You got to organize it somewhere on the animal kingdom. Where is it? What is it?
Homo sapien parts.
It's a human.
Homo sapien parts.
You just admitted it's a human being.
And what species
is sperm? So fucking stupid, dude.
And what species is egg?
It's neither human nor anything.
What species is the egg from a woman?
It's an undeveloped part of a male.
Aren't there like trace bits of DNA from the intestinal lining that you can find in like shit? Can't you literally do that? Or like the gut bacteria or whatever? Which is in some like parts of our like bacteria strain. Oh yeah, this is a human poop. Like what? This is just so stupid. Jesus Christ, you know? Yeah, like my arm is human, but if you cut off my arm, nobody would point to that and then say that is a human. They might say it's a human arm, but saying something is a human, yeah, you're implying there's some kind of separate autonomous individual, which is just not the case.
Or undeveloped part of a female.
And a fetus is an undeveloped baby.
No, it's very much developed.
No, it's not. It's developing the whole time until birth.
How are our brain cells doing, by the way? This is some tremendous... This is... I really appreciate Charlie Kirk putting out kink content, okay? Because watching this video actually simulates the effect of having oxygen starved from your brain. You know? Like, if you're into, like, a choking fetish, but you don't want to actually do it because it's dangerous, you could just play this video in the background while getting fucked, and you can actually feel, like, the high of your brain cells dying, you know? This video is basically cock and ball torture, true. Yeah, Demon Mama. I think the comedian's arguments are largely bad, but like Charlie Kirk is being such a clown here that's not like I don't fucking care. We're at the clown show, okay? We've got a whole motherfucking clown car we're packing people out of here. I want it to stop, to be honest. Well, we're more than halfway through. I think you guys are doing great.
That's the whole process.
New DNA is formed.
New DNA is formed the whole time up until birth.
No. The new DNA is formed right at that moment.
No.
Yes, it is. The new DNA is of the sperm and egg meet. That's called conception.
Yep.
And the science of embryology say that is a human life.
Yep. And each egg that drops is unique DNA in that egg, and there's unique DNA in the millions and millions of sperm that goes and fertilizes that egg.
And we said, what happens to an unfertilized egg?
Vaush, if you think abortion is a bit immoral in most cases, why waste time arguing about anything other than it being pragmatic legally? Because other people will argue that it's mega super duper immoral, in which case that morality would supersede whatever potential moral harms you could have to mandating birth. So you'd have to make the argument that like abortion isn't murder, which no, it's fucking not. It's not fucking murder. Shut the fuck up. Okay, that's such a stupid position. It's not legally murder, so that argument is settled. And when we're talking about like every legal precedent adjacent to issues concerning the birth of a child, we acknowledge that it's not murder. And ethically, I don't think anyone treats it as murder colloquially. Like the reasons why murder is wrong, like, do you guys seriously think murdering people is bad because people are people? That it's some kind of tautology that human beings are just innately deserving of something? I think that in reality, from a moral perspective, there are things about humans that make it bad, and then we assign that as a category to avoid, like, in-group discrimination, right? Like, I think that, like, dogs have lives and, like, thoughts and feelings and shit, and I feel bad when they get hurt or killed, but I wouldn't say killing a dog is the same as killing a human, right? So, like, why? Well, probably not just in-species bias. We probably think there are things humans can do and are worthy of that dogs aren't. So we think about that for a bit, and then we think, like, oh, okay, so are you saying that smarter humans, it's worse to murder them than dumber humans? And then I would say, no. Because I think that you can take a category bias towards humans and then just apply it ubiquitously. Because in a legal and ethical sense, you're never going to be able to partition out the exact worth of a human's life relative to, like, how many friends they had or how smart they are or anything like that. So, because this is the argument that I always see. It's like, human lives are more valuable because of consciousness and intelligence. And then people are like, okay, so do you think murdering a Down syndrome person is more ethical than murdering a non-Down syndrome person? And then my answer to that has to be, no, I think they're equally immoral, same as murdering two people who have different numbers of friends or are different levels of intelligence or are different X or Y. And the reason for that is because when we're talking about the actual practical consequences of ending a human life, you can never do so in a way that fully takes into account things like their internal conscious experience. We're talking about a group bias towards humanity. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Humans as a category are more conscious, more self-aware, more intelligent than other animals, and that's the standard that I'm applying. And whatever makes us more conscious, aware, and intelligent is not present in fertilized eggs. In fact, if you were to do that, like, brain activity stuff, wouldn't it be the same for basically all mammals? Like, if it's like humans have brain activity at 8 weeks, well, wouldn't other mammals in gestation? So clearly that's not a product of humans being smarter, you know? Yeah, it would be very comparable. It would probably be faster for other animals because humans have an unnaturally long gestation period, right? So for animals that give birth to their young faster, they might have like a proportionally faster development of things like brain signals. I'm just guessing at that, by the way. I don't know if that's true, but it feels like that might be the case, at least in some instances. Would you argue that faster brain development in a, like, fetus means that species is more worthy of moral consideration? Because I'm pretty sure that, like, mice are, have faster brain development than humans, like, in the womb. They have to. They get born super fast, right? So, yeah. To sum all these things up, I'm just saying that, this is dumb.
the sperm dies, and what happens to a pregnancy that doesn't go to term? It dies. Your point is what?
That it's a human life.
No.
That it develops.
But you didn't prove that point. You can just jump to that.
Uninterrupted from an abortionist intervention.
No, there's miscarriages all the time.
Of course, that doesn't make it not a life.
So when a miscarriage happens, is
That's
the
a
woman
life
a
that should be
murderer?
grieved.
Is a woman a murderer?
Of course not. That happens through many different sorts. There could be chemical pregnancies.
Honest
but
question.
that is a
Honest
life.
question. Honest question. Do you have any friends who have ever had an abortion?
Yes.
Okay.
And I grieve for them.
You grieve for them.
Because they were taken.
That's an interesting betrayal of his positions on this. If he knew a friend who had murdered somebody, would he grieve for them? Like, is that what he would say, like, immediately? Or would he say, I immediately discontinued our friendship because they have an ethical philosophy that allows them to be complicit in enacting genocide? Like, imagine if you had a friend who thought that, like, Muslims weren't people, so they killed a Muslim and got away with it because, like, the cops never proved it was them. Would you go, oh, I pray for them? Is that what, would you say that? No, I don't think you would you? I don't think anyone would say that. I think Charlie Kirk might actually think there's something different about a life that is a fetus and a life that is a born human being. Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk might say that, yeah, but only because he'd share their opinion.
Taken advantage of by people like you and the abortion industry.
Right, they were taken advantage of. That's how they feel.
That's how I feel. Many of them, by the way, if you want to talk about the mental health cost that women have after an abortion, I'm happy to talk about how most women regret having abortions.
I wonder why women have mental health problems surrounding abortion. I wonder if there's any political party or group of people who have made it an objective to make life as miserable as possible for people who have gotten abortions. Let me think about that. Also, are we going to compare the mental health costs of women who have abortions to the consequences of having an unwanted child, or are we going to present those stats out of context?
About how they have psychological damage, social damage, spiritual damage.
Hold on. Women who have them are plagued by regret. Results of a 2015 study showing approximately 95% of women who had abortions claimed it was the right decision. Oh, yeah, okay. I think the vast majority of women recognize it was the right decision for them, yeah.
That they wish they could take it back.
That is a BS talking point.
No, it's actually a scientific fact that abortion is actually terrible for the women, for the woman.
No. Unsafe abortion is
I care
terrible.
about the women, guys.
Abortions are very, very safe and are very healthy to do. And in fact, for any woman watching this that is being forced to not consider an abortion as an option if they are not ready to have a child because maybe their husband or their partner or their parents are not allowing them to do so, please know you can get pills online from other countries, even if you have to, that can do a safe, painless, easy, at-home abortion, and you will not have to deal with any problems health-wise.
It depends on how far in you are.
So know that option's out there for you.
I got to be honest.
Please keep that in mind.
Your ease of which advocating murder scares me.
You keep saying murder. And you also think fetuses are dolphins, so you don't ever take in a point that you already lost and adjust your
let me
opinion.
Be clear.
Which is
your main argument you keep on resorting back to is you have two pictures of a human being and a dolphin that look similar, argument. And you think as if that's some sort of big argument.
Your own words is that embryos haven't had a chance to exist yet, that fetuses haven't existed yet. Your own words.
Existed the way you and I have, yes.
Right.
So now you are workshopping something I said on a radio show and YouTube channel.
No,
got it.
alive. Your own YouTube channel.
So
your own YouTube channel.
Let me ask you a question
about
here,
that one.
Which is, what is a human being?
A living, breathing, out in the world entity. Let me ask you a question.
The distinction between being a human and being a person is so necessary here.
A mother is a woman who has a sperm and egg fertilized, and human life has begun.
And does she have autonomy to make her own decisions? Do you think she's a full human being? That's respectful?
This is where you stepped in it.
You think
if it's not her DNA, it's not her choice. That's a moral argument.
It is her DNA.
No. It's not. New
and it's
DNA
her
is
body.
Formed.
And it's her body.
It's not her DNA. It's new DNA has formed.
Would it be fair to define a human as someone with their own identity? So it depends on whether you mean human colloquially or like specifically. Human is just the term we have for Homo sapien sapien, which is the speciation that we belong to. In which case, you would say that like a fetus belongs to that category. Like a fetus would be a Homo sapien sapien, like species-wise, right? Like we would all agree to that. So that would be a human. But a lot of people also use human to mean personhood. Like for instance, the term somebody's humanity, right? When we say something has a lot of humanity, we're not actually referring to how human it is. All humans are equally human, after all, in the speciation sense. And the term humanity, or how much humanity something has, in sci-fi is often used to refer to non-human things, or like in fantasy or whatever, right? So we clearly don't mean it, like, colloquially as a reference to species distinction. We're clearly talking about something else here. And the thing we're talking about is personhood. Or, I guess in the case of humanity, we're talking about, you know, capacity to care for others. It's obviously not just like your species designation.
In my opinion, the legal, well, she currently has the legal authority in some states,
Correct.
unfortunately.
Legal authority and constitutionally
the
protected
moral
authority. You like the Constitution, don't you?
Wait,
you care about it?
Where in the Constitution does it protect abortion?
The 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment.
What does the 14th Amendment say?
The 14th Amendment...
Where does it say the word abortion?
It protects your liberty.
Where does it say the word
and
abortion?
there
Sadly,
cannot
none of
be
these
infringements
uniques are
in the
good for
due
me.
process clause to your liberty and to your right to privacy.
Sorry.
Let me ask you a
And the
question.
government should not go into your body. Why are there no rules or laws that affect a man's body? What if we said, here's how we're going to reduce abortion, Charlie, is every man, including you, Charlie Kirk, newly married, has to get a vasectomy. It can be reversed when you're ready to have a baby. Would you be okay with it?
No, because it doesn't involve a certain human life. Let me ask you a question.
What do you mean?
So,
no, it does, because you're saying men are not responsible at all for unwanted pregnancies.
So you believe women...
You're saying men are not responsible at all for unwanted pregnancies.
Hold on, I don't
Are you or
understand
not?
where you're
That's a
going with this
question.
argument. Say that again?
Are men responsible at all for unwanted pregnancies, or is it just a woman's fault?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right. So then
Probably
shouldn't the laws
uncomfortable.
also enforce something on them? Then, if this is such an epidemic that you call it genocide?
No, because you have a new being that is created. So we should allow women to
women
make
are just
decisions.
empty vessels then.
So men should not be involved in making decisions for women's health care, right?
Correct.
So then you think Roe versus Wade is a mistake because it was 7 men that made that decision.
my
So we should
God.
repeal
That doesn't
Roe
make any
versus Wade.
sense, because unlike you...
men shouldn't dare make decisions for women.
No.
You
Because
advocate
unlike
for the
you...
repealing of Roe versus Wade.
No.
Let it be on the record,
No.
everybody.
Again...
7 men made a decision that
There's
was terrible
7
for women.
empathetic men that don't have...
Oh, I thought you said we shouldn't make decisions
No.
for women.
Shouldn't.
7 men,
This is
everybody.
so
Except
stupid.
obviously
Roe
the
versus
Supreme
Wade.
Court, who
Holy
is empowered
shit.
to make
I
such
thought we should
decisions.
trust women.
You just scoffed at laws a second ago, but you seem to be a man of law typically, and so typically...
So what's the law that
abortions-
protects abortion? What was it passed by Congress?
Okay, once again, let me finish my point
Name the
here.
statute.
Let me finish my point here. You see,
It never
unlike
happened.
you, those 7 men on the Supreme Court were able to have empathy and realize they don't know what a woman goes through to give birth and how it affects every part of their life going forward, and so...
This is a dumb reading, by the way. Making the argument that Roe versus Wade was produced because of, like, sympathetic men or whatever is, like, a really reductivist and individualistic take. The real answer here is, like, because he's trying essentially to argue, like, men shouldn't interfere in women's business, but only if they're nice or whatever, which is a dumb argument. It's really easy to tear apart, okay? The best thing that he could do right here is say that there's a pretty big difference between men legislating that women have the right to choose and men taking away that legislated right to choose. Is there any way to argue against these dumb fuck takes? I don't know. You could always, like, scream really loud. Oh, no. Is that a fly? How'd a fly get in here? Oh, good luck, little buddy.
They realized that the government, something you're typically in favor of, small, limited government, not infringing on people's liberties or lives,
Including
should
the
not
unborn.
infringe on... That's not what they decided. They decided and it's now
Incorrectly.
protected by the Constitution.
Incorrectly.
The
Also,
clerk-
I can just say 2A, then Second Amendment is incorrectly, and we can do any regulation on
you guys
guns.
say that
then.
all the time. So the clerk for
And your
Justice
point is what?
Blackmun
It's a good
said that
point.
Roe versus Wade is intellectually suspect, the most intellectually suspect constitutional decision
Who
of the
said
modern
this?
era. The clerk for Justice Blackmun, who wrote the opinion for Roe versus Wade, the 7-2
The
decision
clerk.
that allowed 60
Wait,
million
who the-
The
wait.
dissenting opinion.
Wait. Who?
No, Justice Blackmun was the majority opinion. This is
Okay.
the clerk
The clerk? Okay. Thank you.
for Justice Blackmun, who said it was one of the most intellectually suspect constitutional decisions of the modern era. When did Congress ever
Great,
say
and
that
my
abortion was a right?
assistant one time said I was an asshole. That doesn't make it the law. I mean, what kind of
No,
point is that?
hold on a second. Do we
Okay, hold on. I think I have to go on a fly hunt, okay? You guys enjoy the video. I'll be back as soon as I can. I love you.
make law through Congress or through a decision of the courts?
Do we make law through Congress or a decision of the courts?
Yes.
Congress makes law,
So-
and the courts decide
so
whether to uphold it or not.
When did Congress ever make a law on abortion?
Congress never made a law also outlawing abortion.
No, but
they
when
saw
did
a
they ever
case.
legalize it?
Both ways, Charlie. When did they ever make it not legal?
Actually, a lot of states had abortion bans up
States,
until...
not the federal.
So what does the 10th Amendment say, Ben?
What does the 10th Amendment
It
say?
says that anything not delegated to Congress will be left to the states and the people.
But this was decided.
Yeah, by a group of unelected 7 men who you say shouldn't make decisions.
Oh, okay.
Right? We have to trust women that overturn
No, I never said they don't get to decide things for the country.
That had their own independent abortion bans.
You're obviously twisting my words very strongly there, because obviously the Supreme Court can make decisions for the country.
If there was such a mandate, what's the law that allows abortion? Not Supreme Court decision. What's the law?
Charlie, the Supreme Court decides on court cases, and they decide whether it is constitutional or not. And backed up by the Constitution that you and I both hold so dear,
right, so
they
there's never been a law.
They codified into our law. It's a decision, that's correct. You can't scoff at Supreme Court decisions
so it's not a law.
Then say that then the Texas law is not a law.
No, we're hopefully overturn Roe versus Wade through the Texas law. The point is that it was never passed by Congress.
Great luck.
Overturn it through the fucking bounty law? Jesus Christ.
Trying to force women to have babies they don't want, aren't ready for, and
let me ask you a question.
Babies from rape and babies from abuse. So great hill to die on. But then make sure you don't rape aside. What a sentence.
Of all. Let me ask you a question.
Rape aside, women. I'm sorry you have to listen to this. Rape aside.
Statistically, it is less than 1%.
So that's millions.
Let me ask you a question.
That's millions of babies.
Let me ask you a question. How do these other women get pregnant then?
Huh? You want me to explain sex to you?
No, I'm asking you.
I can explain sex to you. I know you're newly married.
So they made a consensual
when a man
decision.
and a woman love each other.
They made a decision, and then they want to terminate and murder that child.
Who made a decision?
Because the 1 million people having abortions every single year. So why all of a sudden should we
they are accidents
be okay
oftentimes. They're not decisions.
With terminating human life?
They're not decisions.
Because they had a consensual relationship.
God, I hope for you
25%
that you don't accidentally impregnate your
abortions,
wife. That would be really hypocritical if you were put in this situation.
25% of all abortions in this country are done out of economic convenience. Do you think that's okay?
Economic convenience is such a stupid, backwards, low IQ phrase for you to use. Economic convenience, what you actually mean is they cannot possibly afford the $1 million it will take to raise a child that you can afford because you were born into privilege. And they weren't, but you're so privileged you also want to force them to have a baby and then vote against legislation.
What's the average social welfare benefits for somebody annually with a child?
What's the number of it?
What's the annual benefit?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
$55,000 a year. What's that times 18?
Times 18 years? Mm-hmm. I don't know, roughly $500,000?
Right around $700,000. Almost just about what it costs to raise a child. So there's plenty of social welfare benefits in place. So don't give me this idea of economic convenience.
No, because that's assuming every dollar of that goes to that child. That assumes every dollar of that goes to that child.
This is so
you vote
stupid.
against increasing this funding. You vote against paid maternity leave. You push against paid maternity and paternity leave. You push against helping, increasing prenatal care. You push against making sure that there is more support for helping raise these kids.
Let me clarify this.
You only want to force people to have babies they don't want, and you don't actually care about it because you've proven time and time again here that you don't even know exactly what a baby is. You've said with your own words that it's not a life until it's born, never had a chance to exist. You only want to do it to get more followers and to be able to keep your followers on a hook, because the anti-choice movement never even used to be an issue conservatives cared about. Pre-Roe v. Wade, it was about segregating schools. That was the big issue that was the conservative movement hung their hat on.
You are all over the place, man.
Once I'm making great points all over the place, you're damn right. And so once the sentiment of the country shifted against that and they lost that hook on people's playing to their fear and emotions, they had to shift to another emotional issue that played on misogyny and racism without being overtly misogynist and racist. So they instead said, let's control women's bodies and therefore help keep communities of color down, help keep women down, and help have men decide, like men like you, decide what's best for women, even though you can't be pregnant, never will be pregnant. And if you ever, your wife, hopefully, I hope for you, have the life you want, gets pregnant, you raise a family, you'll have the means to take care of them. So it's very easy for you to sit on a high horse and say, you got to also have a baby. Well, so good for you. That's real nice since they don't have the money to do so.
Do you actually believe this?
What part? All these great points that you haven't been able to disprove any one of them?
Well, actually, we've gone through plenty of it. And just to recap, age privilege and size privilege, Ben believes just because you're older and bigger, you should be able to terminate human life. He's been unable to pinpoint when human life begins.
No, pre-human life, and I have pinpointed it at birth.
62 million abortions since Roe versus Wade.
You think fetuses
human
are dolphins,
beings are distinct and whole.
Right.
And the science of embryology
babies sound like this.
shows that human beings begin life at conception,
The
human
science
life,
of embryology. No, it doesn't.
You have been
No, it
unable
doesn't.
to pinpoint
No, it
human
doesn't.
beings on the ladder
It's
of
the building block
animal
of life.
kingdom ladder.
It's the building block of
900 black babies are killed every single day. Ben is in.
Where? I really wish I was there to call him out on that id pull, dude. Like, you'd have to ask, do you think it's worse for a black person to have an abortion than a white person? Then Charlie Kirk would, of course, say no. And then I'd say, then why the fuck do you keep appealing to race? Why do you keep race baiting all the time? Why are you non-stop race baiting? Can you please stop?
Different to that.
No, I want
there
black
are
people to decide for their own community what
waiting
they do.
families for every one abortion that happens every single year.
And there's children that are stuck in...
Wait. There are 36 waiting families for every one abortion? Wouldn't that mean there are 36 million waiting families in this country? Earlier it was 2 million. Because he said there's 1 million abortions every year. Wait, didn't he say... What? Am I misremembering something? Or is he just, like, making shit up?
The adopted...
Will you be going on Charlie's debate show if invited? I already have. Details pending.
system forever and can't
Texas,
get adopted.
70% of all abortions are minorities. And it really goes down to this moral question. And the moral question is whether or not we believe human beings are worthy of protection.
No, no.
I believe
you all the time
that
say
all
you don't
human
believe
beings
they are.
Believe they are worthy of
No,
protection.
you vote all the time against protecting living human beings. You only vote and push people
Hold on a second. Let's
to
talk about
protect
this.
the unborn.
So this
Let's
is a
talk about
slanderous
this.
lie.
No,
I
it's
want
not.
school choice because I care about all human beings. I want more police because I care about all human beings.
See, the problem with this argument is that, like, they'll say this about anything. You're like, you don't care about human beings. You're pro-death penalty. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm pro-death penalty because I care about human beings. And I'm pro-war in Iraq because I care about human beings. Like, everyone says this. If you asked a Nazi, they would say that the Holocaust was them being pro-human beings because, you know how their conspiracies go. They would say that. Unironically, they would say that. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
I want strong borders because I care about human beings.
All
It
of
is a
those-
lie, and it is insulting to anyone who's pro-life to act as if we are only pro-baby. Everything that we advocate at this organization and over here is about the betterment and the flourishing of humanity, protection of your rights, strong education, the ability to read, the ability to go to school,
Read.
not have to live in gang-infested neighborhoods.
You
this
do nothing
talking
to help
point
stop
by the
that.
left.
That is a garbage lie. What
Everything
you're
that
saying.
I advocate
That's garbage.
for is
You
to
decide-
advocate for the human being.
No, you
from
like
the
to
moment of
decide that's not
conception
true.
to the last gasp and breath.
That is a lie.
This
you
is a
you want to
drive-by shooting
decide
tactic.
what you think will help
What?
communities that you don't understand and aren't part of. You think there should be more
Wait,
police.
so the
but
ability
but
to read is something that
constantly-
I'm
no,
saying?
Reading is great, but you constantly denigrate the Black Lives Matter movement and the opinions of the black community that tell you what you are telling them and dictating as their white savior what they should want is not in fact the reality they live. You're telling them more police. They say we desperately need other ways. We need to shift funding into social workers, into healthcare, into help other community
Let's
help.
see how this
and
goes.
you say, instead you tweet about how one of the founders of Black Lives Matter bought a house.
Patrice Cullors has 4 homes.
You don't want
and
her
got
to be
rich
able
while her
to-
followers still can't educate their
She's not
children.
allowed.
This is, by the way, the logical consequence of our relevance argument. That right there. That's exactly what I mean. If she cared about her principles, then shouldn't she be donating more of that money to... That's the exact consequence right there. You get meaningless non-arguments where they'll do everything in their power to invalidate real arguments, real positions, real leaders, real everything. By meaninglessly deflecting to some weird appeal to perceived necessity for altruism.
Allowed to get rich? You are, but she's not?
Well, Patrice Cullors goes on bashing capitalist enterprises, saying
God! God, it's almost like I'm never wrong. It's almost like they've been using this against the left forever, all the time. And the only people on the left dumb enough to fall for it are naive 16-year-olds who think they're going to change the world by making AOC donate more of her money, and people who pretend to be on the left but actually care way the fuck more about holding leftists to account than they do about actually making the world a better place.
saying that she's a Marxist, gets rich while her followers continually have to send her kids to bad
Verbatim.
schools. So we only have about a minute remaining.
Verbatim.
So
I have one last question for you. Why are you friends with murderers?
What on earth are you talking about?
You said you have friends who've had abortions and you believe abortion is murder.
Let me
so
be
why
clear.
are you friends with murderers?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Thank you.
Abortionists are the murderers. Women that had abortions are victims.
You said it's a genocide.
Oh, he would never apply that standard if he really thought abortion was murder. He would never. Tough on crime Charlie Kirk, has he ever in his life said that about an actual convicted murderer? Oh, this dude's just actually a victim of like really bad economic and political circumstances. He's the victim. The real bad people are the people orchestrating the economics. Is nope. 0% chance. He knows abortion's not murder and he doesn't fucking think it is. This is just another tactic to control women and control people with culture war discourse. 100%.
They have been lied to.
So women,
they have been captured
shouldn't...
by the abortion industry. They should be given empathy, respect,
what have they
care,
been lied
and compassion.
to about?
So
the abortionists
women not only,
should be locked up in prison, and it's people like you
not only
that are okay
for their own bodies,
with the termination and destruction
of
children.
Pre-babies / what you think are dolphins.
The 62 million babies
not babies,
that you are okay
pre-babies.
with
you
seeing
don't care
being
once they're
slaughtered
babies. You don't
in
care
human
once
life.
they're babies.
Thank you, Ben, for joining us. We appreciate it.
You're friends of murderers.
We can do a short overtime segment. And thank you so much. Everybody, debate night. That was always fun.
Solid debate.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Solid debate. Well, after all that, you know what I think I'd like to say? I think we should say, base Charlie Kirk, thank you for making an effort to improve the left socialist movement by holding to account one of the BLM organizers. You know? You're doing an invaluable service by holding us to account.
Whichever one you want. You got them all over. Ready, Joe?
Got this one.
Pretty smart, by the way, for him to have, for Ben Gleib to have a separate camera setup. Hold on.
People to have babies they don't want.
Okay, so
Even though you won't talk about the woman, you claim you care about the woman, the mother, as well as the unborn child. Then why don't you focus instead on the education of these people? Why don't you focus instead on making sure they have the care they need to be able to bring more children into the world, which would make you happy and would reduce abortions, and not do it through draconian laws that punish them and would make it illegal if they're raped or if they have an ectopic pregnancy or anything like that.
How much do you know about my views on actual children in development?
I've studied as much as I could find, but I don't know that much about it.
I believe in paying people to have children. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, you should have a note card.
But what's your answer to that question? Rolling back reproductive freedom.
People to the Capitol on Jan 6 and ginning that up. Democracy.
Love and care for. How do you reconcile being anti-freedom on all of those things and claiming you are pro-freedom?
So Ben, I have a question. Which one of us was
anti-democracy?
Ben, I have a question. Which one of us was arrested at the Capitol before?
I was.
So you're an insurrectionist?
Oh no, I didn't break into the building and kill people.
Wait, were you arrested?
Yeah,
Where was I on January 6th?
What the fuck
You
is
were
this?
doing a podcast in which you said, I'm getting 500 emails a minute of people saying, we want civil war, and ginning that up.
You were arrested at the Capitol?
Not that day.
And I was in Phoenix, Arizona?
And you also sent busloads of people to the Capitol on January.
This is an obscenely stupid. He was arrested in 2019, not at the insurrection. Okay, yeah, he was arrested in 2019 at a peaceful protest that had nothing to do with the fucking Capitol riot. Yeah. Also, didn't Charlie Kirk just say that the bad people are the people who advocate for something, not the people who actually commit it? This is so stupid. Where was the...
How do you say this?
Do we have a timestamp on like the freak out or something?
Human beings. I do.
You just said over and over again, you just affirmed again that you don't care about helping
you're at it?
structural systems.
So what's the final question you have
it.
here?
That day that you ginned up.
I ginned up nothing.
That
That's
day
a disgusting
that you ginned up.
lie. You're the only one that got arrested.
You said you were sending patriots to fight.
I said nothing like that.
You did.
You've never said
patriots to fight.
Metaphorically fight.
And you said they wanted civil war.
I didn't say that. Okay, well, I did, but...
This is so typical of the
encourage
left,
the Civil War.
where you come in here, where you yourself have been arrested at the Capitol,
Peaceful,
and you try to say
disobedient
that I am
protesting.
something
That's
I'm not.
different.
You are a domestic terrorist
Wait,
and
okay.
a failed presidential candidate
So
no
you're-
one's ever heard of.
so you're
and
not-
you have the balls to come in here and try to call me that?
So
No,
you're not.
you're
so you're
done.
not responsible for it.
Let me
I'm just asking
let
that.
me,
That's my last question.
Not even
you're
close.
not responsible
but you
for what happened on
have
January
actually been
6th?
arrested on the Capitol.
Okay,
let me
fair.
finish and say this.
Wait,
This right here
sorry.
is exactly why we're not going to come together as a nation
no,
or this.
no.
You dishonestly come in here with poorly researched talking points where I was
Perfectly
2,000
researched.
miles away
You can't
from Phoenix, Arizona
incite
that
a
day.
mob from a distance.
Let me be very clear. You're the one that's actually been arrested before.
Yeah.
I have not, nor are
Peaceful
students,
protest.
and they got nowhere near.
None of them.
And
Yeah, well, people aren't being arrested for getting abortions right now. So, like, this is so... Yeah, the Charlie Kirk's a smart guy, too. So, like, you have to know this is very practiced dishonesty. Like, every word that he's saying is dripping with so much insincerity. But, yeah.
Let me just finish by saying this. You're done. Let me finish by saying
You're
this.
done. You're done.
This
You're done,
is
so.
exactly
I
why
promise here's my
no
last
one
sentence.
trusts half the country.
I promise
because
here's
they
my last
dishonestly
sentence.
lie
Charlie.
about this, and they think they got one when they themselves are actually the domestic terrorists and the people that have attacked our democracy. He's been arrested. I haven't. Thank you, Ben, so much for a great debate. Thank you guys so
I
much.
promise here's my last sentence.
Thank you.
No.
We're done.
Last
Thank you.
sentence. If you're not responsible for what happened
Thank you.
on Jan 6,
Thank
is
you.
that because unintended consequences happened that you
Thank you.
didn't anticipate?
I hope that
Kind of like mothers that have an unintended pregnancy, they didn't anticipate. So if you want to be cut some slack for Jan 6, maybe you could cut women some slack
Thank
who
you.
unintentionally get pregnant.
Thank
Does that
you.
sound like a deal?
You're the domestic terrorist.
I was arrested for peaceful protesting, my friend.
Thank you. Domestic terrorist.
You ginned up an insurrection on our country. So well done.
Charlie's a super dishonest debater. Oh, yeah, for sure. He's a fucking snake, for sure, 100%. Didn't Charlie actually encourage the Capitol riot? Yes. Yeah, he did directly. And he actually sent people in there. Yeah, 100%. The only reason he gets so mad about this is because it's the same reason the alt-right has been moving away from Charlottesville. When Charlottesville happened, they were all like, fuck yeah, dude, white country, we're coming back. But then when it turned out to be an optics nightmare, they moved away from it. They started lying and pretending that it was just like a regular conservative demonstration that people overblew in the media. And same thing happened on January 6th, by the way. Exact same thing. People like Nick Fuentes even, who said when January 6th happened, I will never back away from this, fuck all the rhinos who do, later backed away from it. Even Nick Fuentes, who literally directly said, I will not move away from this one, later did. Because they all do. When it turns out to be an optics nightmare, they distance themselves, no matter how dishonestly they have to do it. They did it with Charlottesville, they're doing it with this. They'll do it again in the future, too.